Please welcome to the stage Michele Howard, Chief Program Officer of Hope Chicago, with Bill Golderer, President and CEO of United Way of Greater Philadelphia and Southern New Jersey.
There he is.
Where do you want to go? Oh, there. That's great. Well, this is exciting.
Very much so.
I'm going to give you an opportunity to introduce yourself, but I want to say thank you to all of you for being here today, and also to tell you something that you're about to find out. There are so many people who have great intentions. There are so many people, unfortunately, in these days, who pretend to have good intentions and are actually wreaking havoc in our community, right? And every once in a while, somebody comes across, like your life, who not just has good intentions and wants to be about something good, but actually does incredible good in the world. So Michele, would you tell this room of concerned and committed citizens what good you're up to?
I'm like, is he talking about me? So thanks, Bill. Yes, again, my name is Michele Howard, and I have the privilege of serving as the Chief Program Officer at Hope Chicago, which is a two-generation and new kind of approach to higher education access for students, particularly, obviously, in Chicago, but most importantly, based on community. And so what we have been able to do in partnership with our school district in Chicago, in partnership with our higher education community in Chicago, we have really been able to, I would say, fill the gaps, right? Student services and access to higher education is a big deal. But the reality is most families don't even know how to navigate that space. And so what we think is important at Hope Chicago is community building. I loved hearing from Donna Brazil earlier, who said it so well, is that we have to really start operating on bringing people in on hope and really defining our own individual purpose and how we really change the landscape that's before us. It's been done before, and we want to do something really innovative and new this time around. And so I'm excited to talk a little bit about Hope Chicago and the families that we serve, particularly the 5 high schools in Chicago on the south and west sides of the city, which, quite frankly, we know have not been invested in the same way as other communities. And we want to just say very clearly that your zip code does not define who you are and what you can become. And so access is important, but completion is even more important. And so I'm excited to be in a position that allows me to serve students and families in Chicago in a way that they deserve and create new avenues for them to get to completion.
So if you could, for this group, share a little bit what you shared with me about what is it about your approach, because this is so complicated and so many myriad of challenges. What is it where you felt like this is going to represent breakthroughs for families? What's the differentiator? What's really the special sauce?
I think the special sauce is the parents. It is a two-generation model. We know that putting really the work and the load of building a home and a future on the back of a 17 or 18-year-old, because 80% of our students are first generation, that's difficult. And so we said, hey, that's not reasonable. Let's see about giving this opportunity both to the student, traditional age student, and then one of their parents. And so we've seen incredible success. We've only been around for about 4 years, but again, this is not about Hope Chicago. This is about hope in action. And hope in action is people want more. And so the students and families that we serve, we have seen already over 130 parents come through the program. One, because many parents have given up on their dreams because they've had their families. And so they've had to stop and really look at all the moms. I'm like, yes, we've had to make some changes. I have a 6-year-old and I've already started making some changes, but the thing that has been consistent is before I had a son, when I worked in the school district, I would say to students, I need you to be successful because my son's or my child's future depends on what you do right now. But now my son is here. And so I'm looking at my students like, listen, this is who I work for you, you gonna work for him. Let's figure this out together because we all need a brighter future. And so the investment that we're making in seeing these students and these families really take advantage of not just higher education, but workforce, other programs and certifications in workforce. Many of our families don't even know what these things are. So it's great to have opportunities and resources, but if you're not connected to them in a way that allows you to take advantage of them, then are they really resources? And so our job, my job, is to make sure that we are building a program that is a national model that can be used across this country, because I think that it is incredibly important for students and families to have access to economic mobility. And we all know that education is a clear lever, an equalizer, and so educating families about what college is supposed to do for you versus just what you're supposed to do in a college becomes very important for our families. And so again, we've seen parents taking advantage, we've seen students taking advantage, and the joy of seeing a father and his son who have come from the same high school, same community, but now the opportunity looks different 25 years later is remarkable. And so it's not easy, but it's necessary. And the hard work is not on me. It's on the families that show up every day to take advantage of these opportunities. And so with the 29 institutions that we have in our state that are partnered with us, again, this is about building a village around students and families, so not only do they get an opportunity to access higher education, but they come through it and graduate and get access to the corporate world and the careers that all families are really looking, to just better themselves.
So you touched on this. There's quite a few. One of the things I like most about the Citizen and people who are drawn to this kind of event is there are two characteristics that matter. One is a sort of a posture of a builder mentality, people who want to build things and make things rather than talk about things or complain about things. There's builders, but there's also people who are not naive about adversity and how hard it is. Even if you're trying to do good in the world, sometimes it's hard. And I'm just wondering if you could talk a little bit about for the builders and the doers and those who are not naive about adversity, can you talk about what early days you're trying to get established, what were the kinds of adversities you were facing knowing you wanted to serve these families? What adversity did you have to overcome?
The easiest way to answer that question is the very first kind of pillar that we started from was building the belief. One, the students and families that I was the scholarship manager of Chicago Public Schools for about six or so years. And what I recognized, and I'm a CPS, a Chicago Public Schools graduate, and one of the things that I recognized very early on is that there are 20,000 seniors in our school district at any given time. That is like a small town, right? And there were not enough scholarships to even reach that whole crowd. But what we recognized was students really didn't know what to do, but they did know that they didn't have enough money to do it, right? So what we recognized, again, early on was at the 5 high schools that we were serving, which are all neighborhood high schools, meaning that anybody who lives in that neighborhood can walk into that high school and get enrolled. We decided that we wanted to make neighborhood high schools a destination location, right? Because going to your neighborhood high school, you should be able to walk down the street, go to a good high school, and have access to higher education. But what we had to struggle with, honestly, was capacity. People. We need people. We could talk a good talk, but we need to invest in human beings who will then invest in human beings. So we knew that we needed people. We had to invest in student success coaches that would go into our high schools and work alongside the counselors and the post-secondary teams. Because again, when this opportunity became available, which we basically said, your whole school, so if this was the high school, we would say, anybody who is sitting in this room under the sound of my voice, we are saying to you that you now have access to go to 29 institutions across this state debt-free. Right. That's what happened. Everybody's like, oh my gosh, what? But what I knew was, because I'd worked in the district, That sounds good. But we have a whole system that has been built to be able to help students navigate getting to college. And when you put in a debt-free option, it changes the landscape. And so we had to put in a partner to work with the high school teams because this was not going to be an easy feat. It also changed the number of students who were now coming into the counseling department saying that they wanted to go to college, right? Because when you take away the financial barrier, not saying that you could still just walk into any school, but when you take away the financial barrier, that means that you can actually go somewhere, stand on that campus, and go to class. Many of our students knew early on that they didn't have money to go to school. So when we announced this, everybody clapped. That first year, we saw 30% more students going to college. It was like, wow, right? Second cohort, 30% more going to college. Third cohort, 30% more going to college. So my biggest contention was, how do we take what the data currently says and build new data to say what would happen if we put this debt-free option in? Because the reality is, we never had that. The only people who got debt-free options were the ones who were 3.0 and higher. So if you were a 2.5, a 2.2, there was nothing debt-free for you. It was only a segment, if anything. So the barrier became understanding the landscape that we were trying to change and the systems that we were trying to change. So now you have an influx of students going to institutions that aren't used to having this many students coming from this environment. One of our institutions, they had literally had 2 students from our 5 high schools prior to Hope Chicago. Now they have a cohort of 32 every year.
Wow.
So again, the issues were the same, right? There wasn't enough money. We didn't have the right people. And times were just dark and dire. But what Hope Chicago did have was the right people with the right investment early on. Because we all know nonprofits typically don't have the right level of investment early on. We have to fundraise for that. So
You're going to get an amen here in a minute.
Yeah. But we got the right investment on the front end, which allowed us to build the type of program that would be able to navigate the type of mass system that we were trying to impact. We weren't trying to get 4 or 5 kids in college. We were trying to get hundreds in college, and not in college, but on campus, navigating that space. And so the barriers are the same, but we were able to, in a really quick instance, because it's only been 4 years, but the data is what it is. And the reality is we have seen students at our 5 high schools. There's over 600 high schools in Illinois. And we have seen some of our high schools that were 650 with the enrollment numbers, 522, number 531. Now, these same high schools on college enrollment are number 26 in the state, number 84 in the state, number 129 in the state. I mean, look at that, from enrollment from being number 650 to now for enrollment being 84. So again, but those applause are not for Hope Chicago. Those applause are for students who knew what they wanted and knew that there wasn't enough investment to get them there. But when you give people investment, oh baby, they will take opportunity. And so again, to answer your question, we had we knew the barriers, but our founders and our board, and we are fundraising like crazy now, but our founders and our board really were committed to the type of investment needed to build a program on the front end that could prove very quickly
those outcomes
with the people.
Wow. So I'm going to throw you a curveball.
Okay.
So but I think I'm very eager to hear your response to this. Maybe in the last, I don't know when I would put this, 10 years, a lot of conversation that I'm privy to, at least in Philadelphia, is, well, do young people need college? Do we value or need to value that degree or that kind of access the way we did 50 years ago? I'm curious, like, your answer, like, why why are you creating more access? Why are you eliminating the barrier of debt? Because you want these young people to get to college and persist in college. Would you mind sharing a little bit about, for those who think college is falling out of fashion, why is that important now, still, as it was before?
Yeah, so first and foremost, I said it before, but education is the greatest equalizer. And so I think, and not just college, but these learning environments and learning spaces are really important for our students and families to take advantage of, because one thing that I think is important about being in a collegiate environment is it's a microcosm of the real world. So I graduated from Howard University in Washington, D.C., and there are some things that I learned in the classroom, right? That quite frankly, I feel like I could learn in any classroom. But there are some tactics that you just gotta learn on the job. And what I have been able to translate from my experience in being a college student, a college graduate, is really the gift of our young people building the world that they want to see. So I did have a student who told me very early on, like, listen, I wasn't born in the 80s. I don't have to have a college degree. I was like, excuse me? I was born in the 80s, and I do have a college degree and a few, and I still have a lot of bills. And I mean, because I have the student loans. But the reality is, I said it earlier, college is not just about what the students do at the school. It is about what the school is supposed to give you. And so we are working to really teach our young people and advising our young people around how to take advantage on a collegiate campus. Because the reality is, I went to Howard, but our students, majority African American, majority Latinx, are going to predominantly white institutions in our state. And so what we are saying to both the institutional partners and the students and families is that this has to be partnership, because one can't exist without the other. And what students have to recognize is college buys you time. This thing ain't easy out here navigating. So again, a lot of what we worked with our students to do was to build belief, not that college was so great or that the degree is so wonderful, but that there are certain experiences that help you understand not only what you deserve, right, but how to navigate different places and spaces. For example, mental health, mental wellness, that is something that is gravely important, particularly coming out of this pandemic. I say nobody was left unscathed, right? But for students who live in an environment where they don't even have access to health care, but when they go to college, there's a wellness center. But when they go to college, there are therapeutic services on campus for you. So college builds an environment that shows you what you are to expect in the real world. You should have health insurance. That's important. And if you don't know that before college, you sure in the hell know it after. So again, it has really become important for us to help students understand it's not just where you go, but it is what you take from these environments. And I would go so far as to say, and we push the environments where they're going, to say, and what are you gonna do to prove that being in this environment was one of the best decisions that they've made? Because I tell parents all the time, you are not turning your student over to Hope Chicago. We are becoming a part of your village. And in your village, we help you navigate, but we also help you understand what you're supposed to take advantage of on these campuses. And so, again, I don't think it's a matter of waving a flag to say that college is so great. I think it's a matter of telling individuals, we believe in you and we are building the belief in you that there is more for you on the other side. And one of the pieces that's gonna help you get there is navigating through this collegiate environment space that helps you see kind of what the real world is like. And at one point, somebody decided that high school needed to be universal, right? We are at a very pivotal point where the way that we help students access and take advantage of higher education, it's on us. And I am saying emphatically, without a shadow of a doubt, that I know, not the degree, but the environment of being in a higher education space changes the way you see the world. And I know that the students who are sitting in our schools right now, I know that Hope scholars intend to change the world. Because we're not saying to them, we're giving you a scholarship. We're saying this is economic mobility. You and your mama got to figure this out. And we're going to give you enough tools for you to do that. But you have got to navigate this. You and your father have to figure this out. And we're going to give you the things to help you navigate it. But you have got to do the work. So this is not about college. This is not about degrees. This is about the people of this country needing more and us being in a position to give them more. Because I have a degree, I believe everyone should have access to it. And so again, this is an individual play on building hope, one person at a time. I have no doubt that Hope Scholars are going to not only run this world, but they're going to take over this world in a way like we've never seen before. Our future is bright.
I'm going to try and steal one more minute. So we're friends now, right?
Absolutely.
Are you open to some feedback?
I'm sorry?
Are you open to some feedback?
Absolutely.
You have really downer energy. It's like, and, you know, I'm bummed out talking to you. No, I think you alluded to it before, and I was sharing with you and some others here that in some ways, I feel like even though COVID pulled us literally physically apart from each other, there was a feeling that we were together in it. I think the season we're in now, particularly those who are in the kind of the human services advocacy space, are putting on a good face and mustering the energy, but it's in spite of what feels like very long odds and energy diminishing forces. And so if you were to offer a gift to Philadelphia, how do you sustain your resolve, your energy, and your commitment when things are this hard?
Perfect question, and I will offer two things. One of the reasons that Hope Chicago exists is because of this date. You all have been doing Promise programs for a long time. And I actually sat with several of the Promise programs and learned some of the things that worked well and some of the things that didn't. That is why we are successful. Because we are not trying to compete. We're trying to solve a problem. And doing that together puts us in a situation that yields a different outcome. What do I mean? I've got a gift for you, Bill. He didn't know this, guys. This is all. So one of the things that we give to our students is we brand them. We brand them as goal-getters. So we have a goal-getters conference over the summer before they go to college, after they've graduated from high school, as they transition into college. And if anybody knows, that's the time where most students, particularly African-American and Latinx students who are committed to going to college, don't get there. That's called Summer Melt. Come on, pro in the front, fantastic, Summer Melt. So what we said we were gonna do was we were gonna try to target them over the summer to ensure that they got where they were supposed to go. So over the summer, we start branding them as goal-getters. What are your goals? What are your goals? Because here at Hope Chicago, you gotta go get them. We set it up for you, and then you go and kill these goals. And so initially, we gave them hoodies, right? And I remember going down to a campus and seeing students in all these different hoodies. And I'm gonna just, keep it real. Black and brown students in hoodies are not always favorable, especially in predominantly white institutions and spaces. So I had to say, this is the last time we, Hope Chicago, will give them hoodies. Hoodies are cool, that's all right. We want them in crew necks, okay? I said, you could put a white blouse under this and walk in somewhere and be a whole different situation. So even the branding means something, right? This isn't a big investment for Hope Chicago, but imagine how different a student feels walking around in this. When I got this new sweater, I was like, whoa, our gear has stepped up. We are there now. So, Bill, this is what partnerships looks like. You are the only person now in this state who can wear a goal-getter's sweatshirt, crew neck, in partnership. And I promise you, whenever you wear this, someone's gonna ask you, what is that? What does that mean? You're gonna say, where is it? This is Hope Chicago. But I say that, and I give this to you because I intend for us to figure this out. This is not, we're friends now, and our new CEO, he always says this is not a competition, this is friendship. Because if you approached the problem with a friend, it is a very different approach than with a competitor. So, I ask you, Bill, what we gonna do?
Michele Howard.